The storm outside our family's lakeside house in Vermont felt mild compared to what was happening inside that dining room. My father looked at my younger brother Ryan and said with satisfaction, "Well done, son. You've proven yourself." He pushed a thick envelope toward him across the wooden table. Everything was going to Ryan. The house, the business, all the money kept overseas. I sat there quietly, 34 years old, but feeling like a child again. My hands felt cold as I pressed them against my pants, trying to stay calm. Ryan wouldn't look at me. His mouth was tight, eyes down. My stepmother played with her jewelry, staring at the floor. Then my father turned his attention to me. "As for you, Sarah," he said with disgust, "you've always lived in Fantasyland, too soft and caring to make it in the real world." My heart sank. There were 4 other people there, him, Ryan, my stepmother, and the lawyer, but I felt completely alone. He handed some papers to the man in the expensive suit. "Let's make this official." I found my voice and whispered, "Dad, please don't do this." He rolled his eyes dramatically. "Save it, Sarah. You made your choice. You wanted to find meaning in life, remember?" He made mocking gestures with his fingers. "You left this family to work at some medical clinic in another country. And what did you get? No wealth, no status, just wasted years." I spoke barely above a whisper. "You never asked why I left. You never cared to know." He snapped back harshly, "And I still don't care. Because Ryan stayed. Ryan showed he was faithful." I said quietly, "He showed you what you wanted to see. But he wasn't honest with you." My father laughed bitterly. "That's just jealousy talking." The lawyer, an older man with gray hair named Mr. Peterson, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His fingers gripped the folder tighter. "Actually," he said, clearing his throat nervously, "before anyone signs anything, there's something important you need to know." My father looked annoyed. "What now?" Mr. Peterson looked him directly in the eyes. "There's a hidden addition to the will, made 6 years ago at your late mother's request." My heart jumped. My grandmother was the only person who truly understood me. She used to tell me I had more power in my quiet moments than most people had when they were shouting. "What addition?" my father demanded, getting more irritated. Mr. Peterson opened his leather folder calmly and took out a yellow document. "This was filed during your mother's last meeting with a legal witness. Her instructions were very clear. It was to stay sealed unless you ever try to cut Sarah out completely." My father's face twitched with anger. "That's ridiculous. She had no right to do that." "Actually, she did," Mr. Peterson replied, his voice stronger now. "She kept 51% ownership in Lakewood Holdings until she died. And you never questioned it legally. She had every right to do this." Ryan moved nervously in his seat. My stepmother froze, her hands still touching the diamond necklace she always wore when she felt threatened. Mr. Peterson turned to me. "Miss Sarah, would you like me to read this, or would you prefer to read it yourself?" I couldn't move. My eyes stayed focused on the envelope in Ryan's hands, the one that contained everything my father thought he owned. "Please read it," I said softly. He cleared his throat and opened the page. "If my granddaughter Sarah Mitchell is ever considered unworthy by her father, I give her complete control over my portion of Lakewood Holdings, effective immediately. All decision-making powers transfer to her name when this clause is activated. This addition overrides any previous agreements about control or ownership of the company or family property." Complete silence. Only the sound of rain hitting the windows, gentler now, as if even the weather was holding its breath. "What does this mean?" my father shouted. "It means," Mr. Peterson said, looking at me, "that your daughter now owns the majority of shares. Nothing you sign today can change that." My father jumped up from his chair. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. "This is crazy. She doesn't know anything about running the business." "Maybe not your way of running it," I said, standing up, my voice steady for the first time. "But I know how to lead people, how to protect them, how to build something without destroying others in the process." I stepped forward. "You called me worthless, but I never needed you to tell me I had value." I turned to Mr. Peterson. "Let's move ahead. We have a company to manage." Ryan stared down at the table. My stepmother started to say something, then stopped. My father never sat back down. If you felt that moment when everything changed, when power returned to where it belonged, remember to subscribe because what happens next will shock even her father. But he said nothing. He just stood there, silent and stiff, as the world he thought he controlled crumbled around him. The room was filled with a silence that spoke louder than any argument could. My father remained standing, his lips pressed into a hard line, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles pulsing in his face. His knuckles were white as he gripped the back of a chair he had pushed away. For the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Fear. Not the kind that fights back, but the kind that settles deep inside. A quiet, soul-crushing fear of losing something he never thought he would have to defend. "Please sit down," I said gently. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I wasn't looking for revenge. I only wanted what had been kept from me for so many years. Respect. Still, he didn't move. Instead, Ryan finally found his voice. "Wait, this isn't fair. She left us. She walked away." He looked around the room for support. She wanted nothing to do with the business. She ran off to help strangers or whatever. I built safe houses for women escaping violent relationships. I created temporary housing for homeless veterans, I said calmly. I didn't run away from anything. I ran toward something that had purpose. He made a dismissive sound. "That's nice and all, but you don't understand how to run Lakewood." "I understand enough," I said, meeting his eyes directly, "to know you've been stealing money through a fake company registered under your old college friend's name." Ryan went pale. My stepmother gasped audibly. "Sarah, stop this."
"We're family," she said.
"Were we family?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "When you sat there while he called me a failure? When he gave everything to Ryan without acknowledging what I sacrificed for all of you?" "You were never meant for this world," she whispered. "No," I agreed, nodding. "You all made that very clear. But Grandma saw things differently." Mr. Peterson cleared his throat again. "Miss Sarah, your grandmother didn't just leave you company shares. She left something else that was meant to be given only after this moment." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a small, worn box. Inside was her old gold compass. Under it was a folded letter with my name written in her beautiful handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. "My precious Sarah, if you're reading this, it means your father has done exactly what I was afraid he would do. Don't hate him for it. He's a product of a world that taught him that power means being loud. You were never weak. You are the quiet strength that kept us all together. This compass belongs to you now because no matter which direction you choose, I trust you to lead wisely." Tears tried to come, but I held them back. I turned to Mr. Peterson. "Let's continue." As I signed the papers accepting my controlling ownership, my father finally spoke again. "You think this makes you powerful?" he said, his voice low and bitter. "You think she gave you this because she loved you? She did it to hurt me." I looked at him, really looked at him for once. Not as a daughter hoping for approval, but as a woman who could see the truth clearly. "No," I replied. "She did it because she believed in me, and she knew I would use this power to build things up, not tear them down." I walked out with my head held high, years of rejection falling away from me like old chains. But what waited for me outside wasn't peace. It was war. Because having power creates enemies, and Ryan wasn't finished fighting. I had barely reached the hallway when I heard footsteps behind me. "Sarah," he called out. I turned around. His voice sounded calm, but his eyes were calculating. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Do what exactly?" I asked. "Push me out of everything," he said with a shrug. "That's your next move, right?" "I haven't made any moves," I said quietly. "I simply stood up for myself." He laughed without humor. "You think signing some papers makes you powerful? You don't have the backbone to be a leader." My heart was pounding, but I didn't back down. "I'm not here to prove anything to you, Ryan. I'm here to lead with honesty. Something this family forgot how to do." He stepped uncomfortably close to me. "I give you 2 months," he sneered, "before you come crawling back, begging for help. The company isn't a charity, Ryan, he said coldly. It's a battlefield. No, I replied, lifting my chin up. It's a platform, and I'll use it to build people up, not tear them down. You really are naive, he muttered, shaking his head before walking away. But something about how he left bothered me. His clenched fists, the rigid way he held his shoulders. This wasn't him giving up. This was just the beginning of something bigger. The next few days felt like watching storm clouds gather. Word spread quickly. Sarah Mitchell was back, and this time, she wasn't just visiting. People whispered my name like it was part of a ghost story. Some were hopeful, others were scared. I didn't fire anyone immediately. I didn't call big flashy meetings. Instead, I listened carefully. What I discovered was worse than I had expected. Different departments were turned against each other on purpose. Promotions were given based on loyalty to certain people, not on merit or skill. Employee exhaustion and burnout were completely ignored. This wasn't a business anymore. It was like a kingdom where someone ruled through fear. And Ryan had learned everything from the king himself. One afternoon, I walked into the employee break room. All conversations stopped immediately. Please, I said, raising my hand. You're on your break. Stay seated. Keep eating. A cleaning lady named Maria stood up slowly. We weren't allowed to sit down if Mr. Ryan came in, she said quietly. I was shocked. That changes starting today. Her face softened with relief. That evening, I stayed late going through financial reports. I found 3 budgets that had been misused, a suspicious deal with a questionable supplier, and a list of employees who had been fired after raising legitimate concerns. This wasn't just poor management. This was corruption. If I didn't act quickly, I would be blamed when everything fell apart. The next morning, Ryan stormed into my office carrying a thick folder. You want to be the CEO? He snapped angrily. Let's see if you can survive this. He threw the folder onto my desk. Inside were screenshots, emails, and photographs. These are fake, I said, looking through them. Can you prove that? He smirked. Do you really want to destroy me? I asked. I want what belongs to me, he hissed. You were never supposed to win this. I stood up slowly. I don't want to win anything, Ryan. I want to fix what you broke. I see power, he sneered. You see weakness. Then he turned and walked out of my office. I realized this wasn't sibling rivalry anymore. This was war. But I had something Ryan didn't have. I had the truth on my side. Within 2 days, headlines started appearing everywhere. New CEO accused of charity fraud. Family fight at Lakewood Holdings. Sarah Mitchell, legacy leader or dangerous liability. It didn't matter that the accusations were completely false. The public didn't wait for truth. They reacted to drama. My email inbox filled up with crisis management alerts. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Shareholders were panicking. I had barely started, and I was already losing credibility fast. I told myself to stay calm and focused. But late one night, alone in my office, I finally broke down. Not loudly or dramatically, just quiet tears while curled up on the office couch. I wasn't crying because people didn't believe me. I was crying because maybe, just maybe, my father had been right all along. Maybe I really wasn't cut out for this kind of responsibility. Then I heard a soft knock on the door. I wiped my eyes quickly. The door opened anyway. Maria stood there holding a paper cup of coffee. Thought you might need this, she said kindly. You didn't have to do that, I whispered. You looked like you needed it, she said, walking into the office. No one ever brought me anything when I cried in this room. So maybe someone should break that pattern. Something inside me cracked again, but in a healing way this time. Thank you, I said gratefully. She sat down in the chair across from me. Miss Sarah, she said gently, do you want to know the real truth about your family? I looked up, not sure if I was ready. She nodded knowingly. I've worked here for 28 years. I've seen more than most people, and I've seen what they try to hide. You always looked me in the eye when you spoke to me, Maria said gently. I couldn't speak because my throat felt tight. You might feel alone right now, she continued, but you have something they will never have. Loyalty that was earned through genuine kindness. I try to steady my breathing. Why are you helping me?
I asked.
Because someone once helped me when no one else would. She smiled warmly. And because this company doesn't need another king ruling through fear. It needs someone who can heal what's been broken. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom with quiet determination. I let them speak first. Accusations, doubts, demands that I resign immediately. One shareholder even threatened to sue me personally. When they were finally finished, I stood up calmly. If anyone here can prove those documents are real, I said clearly, I'll step down today without any argument. Complete silence filled the room. Then I placed the original financial reports onto the table, showing evidence of Ryan's financial crimes. Secret payments, illegal side deals, money laundering. Then I turned on the projector screen. Security footage began playing. Ryan entering a locked office, plugging in USB drive, transferring files illegally. The timestamp matched exactly when the forged documents were created on the computer system. No one said a word. Truth matters, I said firmly. But I didn't come here to destroy my brother. I came here to repair what he damaged. I turned to the company's legal counsel. My grandmother gave me this responsibility not because I was perfect, but because I still believe in people, even those who have hurt me deeply. I'm not pressing criminal charges, I continued. But Ryan is suspended immediately, and a complete investigation will begin. There were shocked expressions around the entire room. Then Mr. Davidson, a retired board member, stood up slowly. I doubted you, he admitted. I thought you were just another idealistic dreamer. But today, you reminded me why we built this company in the first place. It was supposed to be about people, not just profit and power. Just like that, the energy in the room completely shifted in my favor. Ryan didn't come back to work after that. But 2 days later, I received a handwritten letter from him. Sarah, I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't just want control of the company. I wanted to be noticed and valued. I always thought you got the love I never received. Maybe you just earned it in a different way. You deserved better from me. I folded the letter carefully and placed it next to my grandmother's compass on my desk. Not every conflict needs to end with someone being destroyed. Some end quietly, and some new beginnings are born from choosing grace over revenge. The office felt different now. Not quieter exactly, but more alive and hopeful. It had been a month since the boardroom confrontation. The media had retracted all the false claims against me. Some people tried to call it luck, but those who mattered could see the truth. Not because I had shouted louder than anyone else, but because I had held firm to my principles with integrity. One person, though, still hadn't reached out to me. My father. No messages, no lawyers, nothing at all. I assumed he had disappeared somewhere to feel sorry for himself and blame everyone else for his problems. Until one Sunday morning I walked into my office early, and there he was, sitting across from my desk, hands folded, eyes looking dull and tired. I had to see it with my own eyes, he said quietly. See what exactly? I asked. That you didn't burn everything down like I thought you would. I said nothing, just waited. He looked older and more tired than I had ever seen him. For once, he didn't look like a man in control of everything, but like someone who had lost something important. You were right, he said softly. About me, about Ryan, about how this place stopped caring about people and only cared about power. I studied his face carefully, unsure if I could trust what I was hearing. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. He pulled something from his coat pocket. It was an old photograph. Me and my grandmother when I was 12 years old, covered in paint from an art project. She was laughing in the picture. She told me you would change this family for the better, he whispered. I just didn't want to believe it was possible. If I did change anything, I said gently, it's only because she believed in me when no one else would. He nodded slowly. I came here to say something. Something I should have said a long time ago. He finally met my eyes directly. I'm sorry, Sarah, for everything I put you through. Part of me wanted to tell him it was too late for apologies. But healing doesn't start with holding on to blame and anger. It starts when someone finally decides to break the harmful cycle. So, I simply nodded. Thank you for saying that. I just needed to say it before I ran out of time. my father said quietly. Then don't run out of time, I replied gently.
Fix what you still can.
It's not too late to make things right. He didn't respond with words. He just gave me one last quiet, meaningful look before slipping out the door. 2 weeks later, Maria came into my office with a folder in her hands. What's this? I asked curiously. A list of every employee your father fired for speaking up about problems, she said softly. I figured you'd want to see it. I opened the file and read every single name carefully. Then we sent out personal letters to each person, inviting them to return to work with no questions asked. Not because I needed to prove anything to anyone, but because a real legacy isn't built on family bloodlines. It's built on how you make people feel when you're no longer in the room with them. Months went by peacefully. The company didn't look fancier or more impressive. It looked warmer and more welcoming. People seemed happier. Ryan never returned to work, but we met once for coffee at a neutral location. No apologies were demanded, no digging up painful memories from the past. Just two siblings trying to understand each other better after years of conflict. Maybe that understanding was enough for both of us. My father kept his distance from me and the company. But one day, I received a receipt in the mail. It showed a 7-figure donation made in my name to the women's shelter where I had once volunteered. No note attached, no signature, just his quiet way of saying he was trying to make amends. And somehow that was enough for me. Because I didn't get revenge on anyone. I got something much stronger and more lasting. I earned respect, found inner peace, and built a future that no one could ever take away from me. Now, when I walk into that boardroom for meetings, I don't hear people whispering about me behind my back. I hear the confident footsteps of people who believe in my leadership. All because one day someone told me I was nothing, and I proved them completely wrong without becoming like them in the process. If my story touched something deep inside you, please drop a comment below. Tell me which part hit you the hardest emotionally. Tell me what you would have done in my situation. I read every single word because genuine human connection is what this entire journey has always been about for me. And if you're currently facing your own version of being underestimated or dismissed, please know this important truth. You don't have to shout or make noise to be heard and respected. You just have to stand steady and firm in your truth. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in healing through inner strength and finding strength through showing kindness to others. Because sometimes the quietest people end up carrying the most powerful and lasting legacies of all.